This hearing is about our relationship with Mexico, but I'll start with China, because China is America's #1 economic competitor on the global stage. And make no mistake, they have their eye on the Western Hemisphere. They're heavily invested in Latin American countries, trying to curry favor. And the CCP has created choke points in supply chain, choke points they've shown they're willing to exploit, like restricting critical minerals essential to manufacture semiconductors. Mexico, meanwhile, is a critical ally in the ability of the United States to stand up to China. They're the United States' top trading partner, not just for food and commercial goods, but for important manufacturing items like high-tech power and data cables necessary for AI infrastructure. They're interested in building out a North American semiconductor ecosystem, and they're perfectly situated for nearshoring, so that if it doesn't make sense to move particular supply chains directly in the United States, those jobs can exist in a nearby allied country. In short, a strong U.S.-Mexico relationship is critical to winning the economic competition with China. So you'd think that the Trump administration would be working hand in hand with our geographic next-door neighbor to bring the manufacturing and industries that support it to North America. Instead, they're hammering Mexico with 25% tariffs. They're throwing doubt into the future of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the core of our partnership. They're sticking a fork in the eye of our friends. How can our allies count on this administration to be a reliable partner? So let's start with USMCA. This incredibly successful trade deal negotiated in Trump's first term with bipartisan support is up for review next year. If we want a predictable, secure supply chains that diversify away from China, we have to get this review right. Business leaders in my home state of Arizona that I've spoken to want a trilateral agreement that ends tariffs on USMCA-compliant goods, develops secure supply chains to break China dominance of the critical minerals and active pharmaceutical ingredients, and deters trans-shipment when bad actors try to misrepresent a good's true country of origin. Ms. Duholm, briefly, how can State Department work with USTR and Mexico to stop trans-shipments from China?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. USTR has assured us that actually a big part of the focus of moving forward with a USMCA review in the coming year will be to get at exactly the issues you just raised, to help ensure reliable supply chains and to help keep out third country actors who seek to exploit those. So that is very much a focus of what I understand USTR intends to approach through the USMCA review. We are currently working with Mexico to also try to stem the ability of China and other malignant actors seeking to use Mexico as a trans-shipment point. Mexico just put in place Plan Mexico this year and just recently passed tariffs of up to 15% on non-FTA products from non-FTA countries, which would include China.
Thanks so much.
That's a very important part. The other part is we're working with Mexico to put in place an investment screening mechanism to help ensure that China and other countries do not get into their critical infrastructure.
Thank you so much. I have worked on building a stronger U.S.-Mexico relationship for 25 years as mayor of Phoenix and now in Congress. I know how important they are, but I also know that as we need to be a better partner with Mexico, Mexico needs to be a better partner with the United States. Business leaders have raised concern about Mexico's judicial reforms, as I have numerous times in this very committee. Those reforms enacted last year lower the eligibility criteria for all judges in the country and require them to be popularly elected to their positions, including the Supreme Court of Mexico. Some of those judges manage complex litigation, including trade disputes. My primary concern, and that of American business community, is that these reforms leave the Mexican judiciary vulnerable to transnational crime organizations or even foreign governments like the PRC. I sent a letter to the Department of State earlier today asking State to raise our deep concerns about Mexico's constitutional reforms as you engage in with your counterparts, particularly in USMCA negotiations. Then they're a matter of the U.S. strikes in the Western Hemisphere, illegal strikes that can't help but color our conversations about the hemisphere. What happens in Venezuela today could happen in Mexico next. Indeed, the president has threatened as recently as last week that we would consider open to action, military action against Mexico. The Mexican government has more work to do to crack down on cartels and narco traffickers, and we should be demanding more accountability. At the same time, it is imperative that we prioritize investing in the U.S.-Mexico security partnership. If the president is serious about stopping narco trafficking, he would not be cutting the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement by 90%, including funds for U.S.-Mexico counter-narcotics. If the president is serious about stopping narco trafficking, he would end the military buildup in the Caribbean and put resources towards fortifying legal ports of entry where more than 80% of the drugs that enter this country are trafficked through.